This was our first view of the coastline hotel, Selina Bay, Malta, where we had a lovely large room with a balcony and a sea view.
We had a horse and carriage ride around Valletta, probably ripped off, but we thoroughly enjoyed it.
From the vantage point of the Siege Bell, overlooking the harbour entrance.
The siege bell commemorates the victory of the Allied forces during the Second Siege of Malta from 1940 to 43.
An unrestricted view of the harbour entrance. Somewhere among all these fortifications, Dad, as a Royal Artillery officer, would have been in charge of a defensive gun emplacement.
A lookout tower from the days of the Knights Templar, who were largely responsible for creating the state of Malta.
Looking across the harbour from the baracca, where the noonday gunners fired each day. These shots show Valletta and its fortifications, built centuries ago, and which played an important part in the defence of the island against a modern enemy.
Modern Malta, fancy yachts and dining out.
Water protection and more stone forts.
Gail looks out over the Malta her dad had a part in protecting from an enemy invasion. We thoroughly enjoyed Malta, although there were somber times too.
This red-roofed church in the harbour was never bombed, on strict instructions from the German High Command, as it was an excellent homing-in point.
The noonday gun, heard by ships up to 8 nautical miles out at sea. "1722 is the date above the door, part of the fortifications built by the Knights Templar and which proved so valuable in World War II.
Me feeling quite distressed. We were under the fort in the air raid shelters. Miles of corridors including dormitories, schools, family rooms and a maternity ward. People lived here for days on end as the air attacks were constant. At a bus stop later, we met and talked with a Maltese man who'd been born underground. Being in these shelters was not a pleasant experience for me.
Bullet-riddled walls and other war damage has been left as a reminder to the next generation.
Randall, as close as he is going to get to staying at the house where Princess Elizabeth and her husband Prince Philip stayed whilst he served on Malta in 1947. One of the highlights was riding on a bone shaker bus, as they are called locally. This was a 1919 model. They really do rattle and shake, but it was fantastic to be riding on a bus that was such a part of the local history. A more modern model, not as noisy or bone shaky. An EU directive on the need to be green is forcing the whole fleet off the roads, so images such as this will soon be a thing of the past.
A view from our hotel balcony across Selina Bay and towards the nearby town of Bujiba.
A lotsi, the traditional Maltese fishing boat. The eye is symbolic and protects the sailors by keeping a good lookout for them. The old lazaretto, which was the submarine base during World War II. Dad arrived here in 1941 by submarine.
I had the privilege of a scuba dive off the submarine base and visited this shipwreck bombed during the war. This is the Bauhauser Point at a depth of 17 meters.
Another church, one of 365 on the islands of Malta and Gozo, a different one for every day of the year. We took a ferry ride to the small island of Gozo, used during the war as a rest and relaxation or R&R zone. It was rarely attacked, having no significant targets. Arriving at Gozo Harbour with two other of the many churches visible.
a bone shaker on Gozo. Here they are all grey.
On the edge of a cliff and trying to get a better view down the cliff. It did not work as the post was still too far back.
There are wash houses all over the island, all still in constant use. The Azure Window. It's a 50-metre high rock arch in the Dwedgera Point cliffs. The sea has worn a hole through a narrow headland forming the window. This area is spectacular at any time, but we were told rough seas make it even more spectacular.
Randall is the Pied Piper of cats. Wherever he goes, he seems to attract them. They want to be picked up and snuggle into him.
Farming is a precarious occupation, and each square yard of soil is painstakingly won from the rock which forms most of the island of Gozo.
We know Dad and his crew spent time on Gozo, which was relatively peaceful, and he may well have looked out on scenes such as these unchanged from the days he was there. The Basilica of Our Lady of Tarpanu Gozo, built to commemorate an 1883 miracle recovery through the intercession of Our Lady of Tarpanu, the Mother of Jesus. It was elevated to a basilica in 1935 by Pope Pius XI.
Views of Gozo, the capital of the island. Again, a very strongly fortified city. The cathedral can be seen in this image. It is most remarkable, as the photo of the dome inside shows, for this is not a dome at all, but a coup d'oeil, a fooling of the eye, for the dome is painted on the flat ceiling.
With the sun sinking into the Mediterranean Sea, we finish an enjoyable day on the island of Gozo.
Preparations for the festival of the Church of the Immaculate Lady of Cospicua.
The Immaculate Lady is made of solid silver. She, along with all the treasures of the churches, were hidden in the catacombs during the war.
Walking around surrounded by a myriad of flags associated with the festival.
We walked for miles and found a pavement cafe on a creek. Tasty, inexpensive, filling food whilst watching a small touring Lutzi pass by on the water.
On the 1st of April 1979, the last British forces left the island. 31 March each year is now celebrated as Freedom Day.
Take nothing but photographs and leave nothing but footprints. A sunset closes a wonderful pilgrimage to Malta.